I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down.
And it's been a while since we've heard that introduction music, because we're now going to talk a little bit of judo. And it's with great pleasure we welcome the #1 ranked heavyweight in Australia, and that's Duke Didier. Duke, welcome to Not the Footy Show.
How are you going?
Good, thanks. Well, first of all, great to have you on the show, and a little bit of martial arts and especially judo. Now, you're the current national champion. Can you take us back to when you first got involved in judo?
Sure. I started judo when I was about 9 or 8 years old at Morris College in Canberra here. I was playing a lot of rugby, as everyone sort of does at Morris in Canberra, and I was advised to try a bit of judo to help my rugby, and I took it up, and I quite enjoyed it, and so I stuck with it, and I ended up dropping off with the rugby and sticking with judo.
Now, that must have been hard, because obviously your dad was an initial Brumby, one of the inaugural members of the Brumbies. How did he feel when you made that decision?
Well, at first, he's always so supportive of whatever I do, and at first I was trying to juggle both the rugby and the judo, but I ended up, I was taking to the judo a lot more. I was getting more results, and once we saw that happening, Dad was fully behind me when I made the decision just to stick with judo.
Now, just out of interest, did you find that the judo did actually help your rugby?
Yeah, definitely. It's especially rugby union with takedowns, rucking and mauling. Judo's great with the grappling. It's perfect cross training for rugby union.
Now, you're the #1 in Australia in the 100-kilogram category, and I believe you just took part in the Oceania Champs, where you were a little bit disappointed with how you performed.
Yeah, I ended up losing to a New Zealander, and I came third at the Oceania titles. Look, he was a very classy player, a bit older than me, but I'll come back to that one when I'm a bit older. I mean, Oceania titles, it's a big competition, but I did all right. Still medalled. Still got the points I needed to get for the competition, and there's always next year for the Oceania titles.
And now, Duke, you mentioned that he was a little bit older than you. How old was he?
I believe he was 35 or 36 years old.
That's considerably older, given that judo, usually people reach their peak around their mid sort of 20s. So you being a little bit under that, you obviously
Definitely.
are moving into that area and can see yourself only getting better in the next few years. Would you expect somebody of that age to be as good as he was?
Look in the heavyweights, and there's a lot of weights do peak a lot earlier, but in the heavyweights they do peak, early 30s to mid 30s, and I believe I'll be the same. 36 is obviously on the way back out of that, but he was still very, very sleek, and that also just highlights the importance of technique in judo. He still had very good technique. Tim Slyfield from New Zealand, and it reflected on his competition.
Is that the key to get to the top? I mean, as we said, you're currently ranked the #1 in your weight category, and is it come down to technique, or is there other attributes that are crucial for you to get that #1 ranking?
Look, technique is incredibly important, and basically I'm not the most naturally gifted athlete. Well, I worked hard. I work hard at my technique, but I worked harder in the gym. I made sure I was the strongest player that I could be, and that's basically what I do. I try and fill in the gaps. I have a few techniques that work very, very well for me. It's better to have 2 or 3 techniques that work very well than have 30 that don't work as well for you. But yeah, technique's everything, and that's the emphasis they put on overseas in Japan and France and whatnot in the stronger judo countries.
Now, I was talking to you off air about how I did judo many years ago, and I had one throw that was my favourite, and I can't remember the name of it. Do you have one that is sort of like your pet throw, that if anyone walks into it, you're like, yes, thank you?
Well, I did have a very, very strong throw. The name of it was Teguruma, and it was a big pickup with the leg, and basically, I think it was one of the biggest throws in Australia. But then they banned the leg grab in judo. They've changed it to differentiate the sport between judo and wrestling, and they've taken the leg grabs out. So I've had to adapt and make a few changes. But I've still got a couple of key throws, a couple of signature throws that I like to do, and I make do with them taking the leg grabs away.
Now, you mentioned also grappling, which is a key part of judo, obviously, when you've got your opponent on the ground. And I would think that that has helped you in your transition into mixed martial arts.
That's correct, definitely. Not everyone realises that judo has a large submission grappling portion to it. Arm bars and strangles and hold downs are part of everyday judo. So I did that, and I took that, and I also cross-trained with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is very similar. You wear the same sort of uniform as judo. And I took that, and that was a big part of me, having the sort of foresight to go into mixed martial arts.
And with your judo background, with that grappling and whatnot, it's no surprise then that the 4 fights that you've had in mixed martial arts have all been through submission.
Yeah, I went into especially the first couple of fights. I've had a strategy of let's get them done as quickly as possible. My judo background means I can take them to the ground and dictate where the fight's going to be. And then once on the ground, I've been pretty confident with the guys that I fought, who a lot of them may have focused more on their striking. And once I got them to ground with my judo, I was very, very comfortable down there and able to finish all 4 of my fights with submission holds.
Well, and 2 of them finishing in under a minute. The first one via a guillotine chokehold in 43 seconds, and then of course the third one with an armbar.
Yeah, that's correct. And the second one was with a standing guillotine, also in under a minute. I went in. Yeah, I go in for the first couple of minutes quite hard. I don't ease into these MMA fights, because it just takes one hit and it basically changes the course of the fight.
Now, the first fight you had was against Chris Smith, who's known as the Fighting Rhino. Did he do what you would imagine a rhino to do, just come charging at you?
Yeah, we basically do a little bit of homework on who we're fighting. We ask around, especially for Chris, who was a local guy. We did even a little bit more. We found out what his background was going to be. It was karate. I had a feeling that if once I closed the gap, I wouldn't have a problem on the ground. So yeah, I saw that he was a bit tentative at first with his striking, and so I was quick to close the gap, which would lock up, and then I threw him, and yeah, the submission followed pretty quickly.
You've sort of alluded to this in your answers previously, but when it comes to you being judo, mixed martial arts, obviously there's blokes out there who are punching or striking, kicking, whatever. How hard was that to come across, to get used to from a judo type background? But also, is that part of your strategy when you talk about, just going out there and getting it done quickly, because that's your way of getting around these guys who strike? You just get straight into the grapple and don't give them a chance?
You're exactly right. So I'm still getting used to the boxing and kickboxing side of it. I mean, I've just finished a boxing then judo session today. With the striking, initially exactly right. My first few fights, I tried to sort of hide my negatives and accentuate my positives by making sure I didn't give them a chance to strike. As well as I was inexperienced, because it's starting completely from scratch in a whole new sport. I definitely have more respect for boxing and kickboxing now. It's a completely different muscle groups, and it's very hard to get my head around it. I feel before my next fight I'm putting a lot more work in, so hopefully I'll be able to stand and strike, because I do enjoy it. I love the striking side of it, so I just hope that I can get good enough where I can strike with the strikers.
Was that first punch that you had thrown at you in competition, was that like a little bit of a bit different than all the others, that first one, and you think, oh, this is actually all real and happening?
I have had those punches in fights. The first couple of punches I had in my sparring, I definitely went, oh, well, this is real. In the fight, I don't feel that much. In my last fight, I had a couple of punches that I wouldn't have preferred obviously not to get hit with. But when I was punched at one stage, I went, this guy's here to do that. So let's not hang around up on our feet with him. Let's get down to the ground where I'm much more comfortable.
Now, Duke, we've had mixed martial arts on the show a fair bit, and a lot of the guys, as you alluded to there, have tended to be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't think I've come across anyone who's been judo has been their sort of main focus. Are you a sort of rare breed?
there's a small group of us going through now. I can name them off the top of my head. There's Ivo De Santos, Daniel Kelly, Michael Tobin, Priscus Foganolo, and myself. There's a small group of judo players that are coming through, and I can guarantee there'll be a lot more because with judo, it's an Olympic sport. I mean, it's got high level training and a little bit of funding to go with it. So that the people that have started as kids, they're coming through now, and they've got the base. They're not seeing UFC on TV when they're 16 and deciding to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're kids that have already been doing it, for 10 years, and then are learning, filling in the gaps and learning the striking and a little bit of the no-gi grappling side of it, and then they're going into mixed martial arts. So initially they've got quite a bit of a advantage over their competition. And
presumably it's just a way to make some money.
At first, there isn't very much money in it. The promoters make sure that your first few fights are done basically for the experience. There is money in it. I mean, look, long term, there is quite a bit of money in it. I think basically it's like any professional sport. The better you get, the more money you get, and the more people you draw to your shows, the more money you get out of that.
Now, you mentioned Daniel Kelly is one of the others. Now, 35-year-old, he's currently ranked 4th in the nation for judo. Can you expect to see him in the upcoming nationals?
Daniel Kelly he's been to 4 Olympics. From my discussions with him, he's completely done with judo. I think he actually fought last weekend in the AFC and won his MMA fight by rear naked choke in the first round. I think that's his focus now. He's made that choice. He's done what he wants to do in judo, and now he's taking a new challenge. I fought Daniel quite a lot when I was younger, and I quite enjoyed our rivalry.
Now, with Daniel gone, who do you expect to see as your biggest rivals? I mean, looking at the national rankings, you're well ahead of everyone else. I think the next closest in your weight category is Elijah Sherman's, but he's some 12 points off you. I mean, is it going to be a walk in the park, or...?
Definitely not. There's a few fighters that have international backgrounds that don't appear on the rankings. There's a Korean, there's a Slovakian, I believe. Priscus Foganolo has come up from the under 90 kilos into the under 100s. He's very strong. Elijah's a good, strong junior that's coming through, so he's going to be a challenge. There's a couple others on there. So I mean, it's become quite a strong division, the under 100 kilos. And I'm not taking this nationals lightly at all.
Duke, just before we let you go, our erstwhile leader here at Not the Footy Show, Ashley Morrison, he's sort of thinks of himself as a bit of a judo nut here. And any chance we could set up an exhibition match with yourself?
I don't think so.
Definitely. Anytime I'm in Perth, I'll definitely let you guys know, and we can come and we can do some judo. I'd love nothing more.
I haven't done it for something like 35 years, so...
There's no time to start again like now, is there really?
Exactly right. There's plenty of good judo clubs over in Perth. You definitely should look one up and get back on the mat.
Exactly. Well, Duke, we wish you all the very best in the Nationals. Before I let you go, though, your dad told me that you've got a nice little record, the two of you. Probably the only father and son to be sent off in the same game of rugby. Is that true?
Well, that's true. It is true. Before I came, I'm not sure what many people would do if they saw their father fighting a 25-year-old Islander. I had to make a choice very quickly. This was only last year. I played one game of football, and I don't play anymore. But I played with Dad. It's a lovely father-son. Well, it's supposed to be a lovely father-son bonding. When you see your father punching on with an Islander, I made a split decision that I was going to help, and it landed us both in the judiciary, and I actually got 4 weeks because I was the third nanny, and he only got 2 weeks. So.
Oh well, there you go. But it's good you're sticking up for your dad. Look, Duke, fantastic talking to you. Hopefully we'll have a chat with you again in the future.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on, guys.